The blue glow from Brandon's phone screen cut through the darkness of our bedroom like a knife through my heart. It was 2:47 a.m., and I had woken up thirsty, reaching across his sleeping body to grab my water bottle from the nightstand when I saw it. Text message after text message lighting up his phone. But it wasn't the constant buzzing that made my blood run cold, it was the contact name at the top of the screen. And meeting tomorrow 7 p.m. Romanos. Can't wait to have you all to myself again. I should have put the phone down. I should have rolled over and gone back to sleep. Instead, I found myself scrolling through months of messages that painted a picture so vivid and disgusting that I had to cover my mouth to keep from being sick right there in our bed. Last night was incredible. The way you touched me. I dream about leaving our spouses and running away together. Thursday nights are the only thing getting me through this week. Thursday nights. Every Thursday night for the past 6 months, Brandon told me he had late meetings with clients. Important business dinners that could secure our future. I believed him because I loved him. I trusted him because he was my husband of 8 years. I supported his career because that's what good wives do. But there I was, reading detailed descriptions of what he really did on those Thursday nights, and it had nothing to do with business meetings. The worst part wasn't even the graphic details of their encounters. It was reading how he talked about me. She has no idea. She's so trusting, it's almost pathetic. Simone thinks I'm working late again. Sometimes I wonder how someone so smart can be so stupid. My wife is beautiful, but Nicole, you make me feel alive in ways she never could. I sat there in the dark, my beautiful African-American features twisted in pain that I'd never felt before, reading message after message about how my husband of 8 years and his co-worker Nicole had been having an affair. Not just a physical affair, but an emotional one where they talked about their future together, about how they were meant to be, about how they were just waiting for the right time to leave their boring spouses. Brandon shifted in his sleep, and I quickly placed his phone back on the nightstand. I lay there staring at the ceiling for the rest of the night, my mind racing between anger, hurt, and something else I couldn't quite identify at first. It took me until the sun started creeping through our bedroom curtains to realize what that feeling was. Determination. When Brandon woke up that morning, I was already in the kitchen making his favorite breakfast. Pancakes with fresh blueberries, turkey bacon crispy just how he liked it, and coffee strong enough to wake the dead. "Good morning, beautiful," he said, kissing my cheek like he had every morning for 8 years. Like he hadn't spent the night before texting another woman about how much he missed the taste of her lips. "Good morning, honey," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "How did you sleep? Like a baby? You know how much those client dinners take out of me." He sat down at our kitchen island, the same spot where we'd shared thousands of meals, planned our future, talked about having children someday. I watched him eat the breakfast I'd made while lying to my face, and I made a decision that would change both our lives forever. I wasn't going to confront him. I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg him to explain. I was going to do something much more satisfying than that. "Don't forget you have that important meeting tonight," I said, refilling his coffee cup. "The one with the Patterson account?" He looked up, surprised. Usually, I didn't pay attention to the details of his work meetings. "Yeah, it's going to be a long one. Probably won't be home until late." "Of course. I'll keep dinner warm for you." As I watched my lying husband finish his breakfast and head off to work, kissing me goodbye at the door like a loving husband should, I started planning. I had his phone messages memorized. Romano's Italian Bistro. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Table for 2 in the back corner where they could be intimate without being seen. But what Brandon and Nicole didn't know was that Romano's was about to become the site of the most humiliating night of their lives. Because I wasn't just going to catch them in the act. I was going to make sure the people who mattered most to both of them were there to witness their betrayal. I spent that entire day planning my revenge, and for the first time in months I felt truly alive. The next Thursday came faster than I expected. I told Brandon I was having dinner with my sister Tanya, giving him the perfect excuse for his client meeting. Instead, I drove downtown and parked across the street from Romano's Italian Bistro at 6:30 p.m., my hands shaking as I adjusted the rearview mirror to get a clear view of the restaurant entrance. At exactly 7:03 p.m., I watched my husband walk into Romano's wearing the navy blue suit I'd bought him for his birthday. The same suit he'd worn to my company Christmas party just 2 months ago, where he'd held my hand and told everyone how lucky he was to be married to me. 5 minutes later, a red BMW pulled up, and out stepped Nicole Peterson. I'd seen her before at Brandon's office events, but I'd never really looked at her. Now I studied every detail. She was shorter than me, maybe 5 feet 4 inches, with straight brown hair and pale skin. Pretty in a basic way, but nothing special. Certainly nothing worth destroying a marriage over. She wore a tight black dress that left little to the imagination and heels so high I wondered how she walked in them. This wasn't business attire. This was a woman dressed to seduce someone else's husband. I waited 15 minutes before entering the restaurant myself. I'd called ahead and requested a table with a view of the back corner booths, telling them I was meeting someone and needed to spot them easily. The hostess, a young woman with a bright smile, led me to a perfect table where I could see everything while staying hidden behind a large decorative plant. There they were. Table 12, just like his text messages had said. Brandon's back was to me, but I could see Nicole's face clearly. She was leaning across the table, her hand covering his, laughing at something he'd said. The way she looked at him made my stomach turn. It was the same way I used to look at him when we first started dating. I ordered a glass of wine and tried to look like a woman waiting for a date while I watched my husband betray our marriage vows. They ordered appetizers to share, feeding each other like teenagers in love. Brandon reached across the table and tucked a strand of Nicole's hair behind her ear, a gesture so intimate it took my breath away. He used to do that to me. When their entrees arrived, they barely touched the food. Too busy staring into each other's eyes and whispering things that made Nicole giggle and blush. I watched Brandon take Nicole's hand and bring it to his lips, kissing her palm gently. 8 years of marriage and he'd never done anything that romantic for me. The worst part was seeing how happy he looked. I hadn't seen Brandon smile like that in months, maybe even years. With me he was always tired, stressed about work, worried about bills. But here with Nicole he was animated, laughing, completely present. This wasn't just physical attraction, he was in love with her. Around 8:30 they got up to leave. Brandon helped Nicole with her coat, his hands lingering on her shoulders longer than necessary. They walked toward the exit together, and I had to duck behind my menu when they passed my table. I followed them outside, staying far enough back that they couldn't see me. They stopped beside Nicole's BMW, and Brandon pressed her against the car door, kissing her like his life depended on it. Her hands tangled in his hair, pulling him closer. They were so lost in each other that they didn't notice the world around them. "I don't want this night to end," I heard Nicole say when they finally broke apart. "Neither do I," Brandon replied, his voice hoarse with want. "Same time next week? I'll be counting the days." They kissed once more before Nicole got in her car and drove away. Brandon stood there watching her taillights disappear before walking to his own car, a smile still playing on his lips. I sat in my car for another 20 minutes after Brandon left, processing what I'd witnessed. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a stupid mistake. This was a full-blown love affair. They had routines, inside jokes, a relationship that had been building for months. When I finally drove home, Brandon was already there, sitting on our couch in his pajamas watching ESPN. "How was dinner with Tanya?" he asked without looking away from the TV. "Fine. How was your meeting?" "Boring. Same old stuff. The Patterson account is being difficult, but we'll work it out." I stood there looking at my husband, this man I'd shared a bed with for 8 years, and felt nothing but contempt. He was lying so easily, so naturally, that I wondered how many other lies I'd believed over the years. "I'm going to take a bath," I said. "Okay. I'll probably be asleep when you come to bed. Big day tomorrow." As I soaked in our bathtub, I thought about confronting him. I imagined screaming, throwing things, demanding answers. But that would only give him a chance to lie more, to manipulate me, to make promises he wouldn't keep. No, I was going to do something better than that. I was going to give Brandon and Nicole exactly what they deserved, and I was going to make sure everyone who mattered to them was there to see it. The next morning I called in sick to work. I needed time to think, time to plan, and time to do some research. After Brandon left for the office, I opened my laptop and started investigating Romano's Italian Bistro. Their website was typical for a high-end restaurant. Photos of elegant dishes, information about their wine selection, and most importantly, a detailed reservation system. I clicked through every page, learning everything I could about their layout, their policies, their busiest nights. Romano specialized in romantic dining. Private booths, dim lighting, intimate atmosphere. No wonder Brandon and Nicole chose it for their affair. The back corner where they sat was specifically designed for couples who wanted privacy. The restaurant's website even advertised it as perfect for special occasions and intimate celebrations. I called the restaurant around lunchtime, disguising my voice slightly. "Romano's Italian Bistro, this is Amanda speaking. How can I help you?" "Hi, I'm wondering about your reservation policy. If I wanted to book multiple tables for the same evening, how would that work?" "Of course. Are you planning a special event?" "Sort of. I want to surprise some family members who don't know each other are coming. Is it possible to book separate tables without them knowing about each other until they arrive?" Amanda laughed. Oh, that sounds like fun. Yes, we can definitely do that. We can book the tables under different names and just let you coordinate the timing. When were you thinking? Next Thursday evening. Around 7 p.m. Let me check our availability. Yes, we have several tables available that night. Would you like me to set something up? Not yet, but I'll call back soon. Thank you so much. I hung up, my heart racing with excitement. The plan was starting to come together, but I needed more information first. I spent the rest of the day researching Brandon's parents and Nicole's parents. Social media made it easy to learn about people's lives, and I discovered some interesting facts. Brandon's parents, Robert and Diana, lived about an hour away in Westfield. Robert had just retired from his job as a bank manager, and Diana was active in their church. They were traditional, conservative people who believed deeply in the sanctity of marriage. Brandon's affair would devastate them. Nicole's parents were even more interesting. Her father, Dr. James Peterson, was a respected cardiologist, and her mother, Patricia, was a former teacher who now volunteered with several charity organizations. They were pillars of their community, and their reputation meant everything to them. Both sets of parents were active on social media, posting photos of family gatherings and celebrating their children's achievements. Nicole's mother had recently posted about how proud she was of Nicole's successful career and stable marriage to her husband of 6 years. Wait, Nicole was married too. I knew she worked with Brandon, but I'd assumed she was single. I scrolled through her social media profiles until I found what I was looking for. Photos of Nicole with a tall, thin man named Timothy. Wedding photos from 6 years ago. Recent vacation pictures. Anniversary posts about their perfect marriage. This changed everything. Nicole wasn't just ruining my marriage, she was destroying her own too. Timothy looked like a nice man, quiet and steady. In the photos, he gazed at Nicole with the same adoring expression I used to see on Brandon's face when he looked at me. I closed my laptop and sat back in my chair, the full scope of my plan finally coming together. Both sets of parents would be horrified to discover their children's affair. But more than that, they'd be witnessing the destruction of 2 marriages, not just one. That evening when Brandon came home from work, I was cooking his favorite dinner. You seem happy today, he said, loosening his tie. Feeling better? Much better. I had time to think today, and I realized how lucky I am. Lucky. To have you. To have our marriage. Some people don't appreciate what they have until it's gone. Brandon shifted uncomfortably. That's sweet, baby. I feel the same way. Liar. But I just smiled and kissed his cheek. I was thinking we should do something special for our families. Maybe invite your parents and some other people out for dinner next week. Romano's Italian Bistro downtown is supposed to be amazing. The color drained from Brandon's face. Romano's? That place is pretty expensive. We can afford it. Unless you have something else going on next Thursday night? Thursday? No, I don't think so. But wouldn't you prefer somewhere more casual? I specifically want Romano's. I heard they have the most romantic atmosphere in the city. Perfect for celebrating family. Brandon nodded slowly, but I could see the panic in his eyes. He was probably already trying to figure out how to cancel his date with Nicole or move it to a different night. Too bad for him. By the time I was done with my plan, he wouldn't have to worry about Thursday night dates with Nicole ever again. Friday morning, I started making phone calls. The first was to my mother-in-law, Diana. Simone. What a lovely surprise to hear from you. Hi, Diana. I hope you and Robert are doing well. I'm calling because I want to do something special for you both. Oh, that's so sweet, dear. What did you have in mind? I'd like to take you and Robert out for dinner next Thursday night. There's this beautiful Italian restaurant downtown called Romano's, and I thought it would be nice to treat you to a night out. That sounds wonderful. But shouldn't Brandon be the one inviting us? It's a surprise for Brandon too. I want to surprise him with a family dinner. Can you keep it secret until Thursday? Diana's voice brightened with excitement. Of course. Robert and I love surprises. What time should we be there? 7:15 p.m. I'll make the reservation under your name so Brandon doesn't find out ahead of time. How thoughtful of you, dear. We'll be there. The second call was trickier. I didn't have a relationship with Nicole's parents, so I had to be more creative. I called Dr. Peterson's office. Peterson Cardiology, this is Jennifer speaking. Hi, Jennifer. This might sound strange, but I'm trying to reach Dr. Peterson about his daughter Nicole. I work with her, and we're planning a surprise celebration for her at Romano's Italian Bistro downtown next Thursday at 7:15 p.m. I was hoping her parents could join us. Oh, how sweet. Let me check if Dr. Peterson is available to take your call. A few minutes later, a distinguished voice came on the line. "This is Dr. Peterson. Dr. Peterson, my name is Sarah Johnson, and I work with Nicole at Henderson Marketing." The lie came easily. "We're organizing a surprise celebration for Nicole's recent promotion, and we'd love for you and Mrs. Peterson to join us next Thursday evening at Romano's Italian Bistro." A promotion? Nicole didn't mention anything about a promotion. "It's all very last minute and we want to keep it a surprise. Could you and your wife meet us there at 7:15 p.m.? We'll take care of everything." "Well, I suppose we could rearrange our evening. Patricia will be thrilled. She's always saying we don't celebrate Nicole's achievements enough." "Perfect. I'll make sure there's a table reserved for you. And please don't mention this to Nicole. We want it to be a complete surprise." "Of course. Thank you for thinking of us." After I hung up, I sat back and smiled. Two sets of parents, both expecting to attend separate surprise celebrations, both arriving at the same restaurant where their children would be having their weekly affair. But I wasn't done yet. The final piece of the puzzle was making sure Timothy, Nicole's husband, would have some idea of what his wife was really doing on Thursday nights. I created a fake email account and sent Timothy a message. "You don't know me, but I think you should know that your wife has been having dinner with another man every Thursday night at Romano's Italian Bistro. Table 12 in the back corner. 7 p.m. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this." I almost hit send, but then I stopped. Timothy would arrive angry and ready to confront them, which could lead to violence or at least a scene that would overshadow my carefully planned revelation. No, I wanted the parents to be the ones to discover the affair. Timothy could find out afterward, when Nicole had to explain to her humiliated parents why she was destroying her marriage. Instead, I deleted the draft email. Timothy would find out eventually, probably that same night when Nicole came home and had to explain why her parents were calling her, devastated and furious. My phone rang. It was Brandon. "Hey baby. I just wanted to let you know I might have to work late again next Thursday. The Patterson account is heating up." "Actually, that's perfect timing. I was going to surprise you, but I invited your parents to dinner next Thursday night. At Romano's Italian Bistro." The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Finally, Brandon spoke, his voice strained. "You did what?" "I made dinner reservations for us and your parents. 7:15 p.m. at Romano's. I know you love that place." "Simone, that's really sweet, but I don't think Thursday is going to work. Can we move it to Friday? I already confirmed with your parents and Romano's is booked solid on weekends. Besides, you can reschedule your work meeting, can't you? Family should come first." Another long pause. "Of course. Family first. Oh, I'll figure something out." "Great. It's going to be such a wonderful evening." As I hung up, I could almost hear Brandon's mind racing, trying to figure out how to handle this situation. He could try to cancel his date with Nicole, but then he'd have to explain to his parents why he looked so disappointed about spending an evening with family. He could try to move the family dinner, but I'd already made it clear that wasn't possible. Or he could try the riskiest option of all. Arrive early for his date with Nicole and hope his parents didn't show up until after they'd left. But that would mean cutting short his precious time with his mistress, and based on what I'd seen, Brandon was addicted to those Thursday night encounters. I spent the weekend acting like the perfect wife, cooking Brandon's favorite meals, being affectionate and attentive. But I could see the stress building in him. He was distracted, checking his phone constantly, and I caught him staring off into space with a worried expression. On Monday night, his phone buzzed with a text. I watched him read it and his face went pale. "Everything okay?" I asked innocently. "Yeah, just work stuff. The Peterson account is getting complicated." But I knew it wasn't work. It was Nicole probably asking about their Thursday night date. I wondered how Brandon was planning to explain this to her. Would he tell her about the family dinner, or would he make up another excuse? Tuesday evening, Brandon's behavior became even more erratic. He kept starting conversations and then trailing off, like he wanted to tell me something but couldn't figure out how. "Simone," he said finally as we were getting ready for bed. "About Thursday night." "Yes? I'm so excited. It's been too long since we've done something nice for your parents." "Right. It's just, what if the Peterson account really needs attention that night? What if I can't get away from work?" I turned to face him, letting concern fill my expression. "Brandon, is work really more important than family? Your parents are getting older. We should spend time with them while we can." He looked defeated. "You're right. Work can wait. Family is more important." As we lay in bed that night, Brandon tossed and turned for hours. I pretended to be asleep, but I was wide awake, thinking about Thursday evening. In less than 48 hours, Brandon's affair would be exposed in the most humiliating way possible. And I couldn't wait. Thursday morning arrived gray and cloudy, matching my mood perfectly. I woke up before my alarm, my stomach churning with a mixture of excitement and nerves. Today was the day everything would change. Brandon was already awake, staring at the ceiling with the expression of a man facing execution. "Good morning," I said cheerfully, kissing his cheek. "Are you excited about tonight?" "Excited isn't the word I'd use," he muttered. "What's wrong?" "It's just dinner with your parents. They're looking forward to seeing you." Brandon sat up, running his hands through his hair. "Simone, I need to tell you something." My heart stopped. Was he going to confess? After all these months, was he finally going to tell me the truth? "What is it?" He looked at me for a long moment, then shook his head. "Never mind. It's nothing important." Coward. Even with the truth staring him in the face, he couldn't bring himself to be honest with me. I got out of bed and started getting ready for work, humming softly. I made breakfast reservations at Romano's for 7:15. "We should probably get there a few minutes early to make sure everything is perfect for your parents." "Yeah. Perfect." Brandon's voice was flat, defeated. At work, I couldn't concentrate on anything. I kept checking my phone, watching the hours tick by. I'd taken the afternoon off, telling my boss I had a family emergency to handle. In a way, that was true. Around 3 p.m., I drove home and started getting ready for the evening. I chose my outfit carefully, an elegant black dress that made my dark skin glow, pearl earrings Brandon had given me for our anniversary, and heels that made me feel powerful. I wanted to look stunning when I watched my husband's world collapse. I did my makeup slowly, taking extra time with my eyes. I wanted to look beautiful and composed, not like a woman whose life was falling apart. Tonight wasn't about me being the victim, it was about me being the one in control. Brandon came home around 5 p.m., looking like he hadn't slept in days. "You look beautiful," he said quietly when he saw me. "Thank you. You should start getting ready. We want to look nice for your parents." He nodded and headed upstairs. I heard the shower running, then the sound of him moving around our bedroom. When he came back downstairs, he was wearing the same navy suit he'd worn for his last date with Nicole. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Ready?" I asked, grabbing my purse. "As ready as I'll ever be." The drive to Romano's was silent. Brandon kept checking his phone, probably hoping for some miracle that would get him out of this situation. I watched him out of the corner of my eye, memorizing every detail of his face. After tonight, I would never look at him the same way again. We arrived at Romano's at exactly 7:10 p.m. The valet took our car and we walked into the restaurant together. Brandon's hand was sweating when he took mine. "Table for Williams," I told the hostess, using Brandon's parents' last name. "Of course. Right this way." She led us to a table in the main dining area with a perfect view of the back corner booths. Brandon's eyes immediately went to table 12, where he'd been sitting with Nicole for months. It was currently empty, but it wouldn't be for long. "This is a nice table," I said, settling into my chair. "We'll be able to see your parents when they arrive." Brandon nodded absently, still staring at the back corner. "Where are they?" "They're usually punctual." "They'll be here soon. Would you like to order some wine while we wait?" Before Brandon could answer, I saw a familiar figure through the restaurant's front window. Dr. Peterson was helping his wife out of a silver Mercedes, both of them dressed elegantly for what they thought was a celebration of their daughter's promotion. "Actually," I said, standing up, "I need to use the restroom. Order whatever wine you think is best." I walked toward the back of the restaurant, positioning myself where I could see both the front entrance and table 12. At exactly 7:13 p.m., Dr. and Mrs. Peterson walked through the front door. "Peterson, party of 2, Dr. Peterson told the hostess. "Of course. We have a lovely table ready for you." The hostess led them to a table on the opposite side of the restaurant from where Brandon and I were sitting, but with a clear view of the back corner booths. "Perfect." 2 minutes later, Robert and Diana Williams walked through the door, looking excited and slightly confused. "Williams, party of 2, Robert told the hostess. "Absolutely. Right this way." They were seated at a third table, completing the triangle. All 3 tables had perfect sight lines to table 12, where Brandon and Nicole had been having their affair for months. I returned to our table just as Brandon was ending a phone call. "Who was that?" I asked innocently. "Just work. A client needed to reschedule something." Liar. It was Nicole, probably asking where he was. Their usual Thursday night date was supposed to start in 2 minutes. "Your parents are here," I said, pointing across the restaurant. Brandon turned and waved at his parents, who waved back enthusiastically. He looked confused by their presence but not alarmed. Not yet. Simone, Robert called out, standing up from his table. This is such a wonderful surprise. I waved back, smiling brightly. I'm so glad you could make it. That's when I saw Brandon's face change. He was looking past his parents, and I followed his gaze to see Dr. and Mrs. Peterson sitting at their own table, studying their menus. Why are the Petersons here? Brandon whispered, his voice tight with panic. The Petersons? I don't know any Petersons. Maybe they just chose the same restaurant as us. What a coincidence. But Brandon knew it wasn't a coincidence. I could see him connecting the dots, realizing that somehow this evening was going to end very badly for him. At exactly 7:18 p.m., Nicole Peterson walked through the front door of Romano's Italian Bistro, wearing the same tight black dress she'd worn the week before. She was looking for Brandon, scanning the restaurant until she spotted him sitting at our table. The confusion on her face was priceless. This wasn't how their Thursday nights were supposed to go. Brandon's phone buzzed. He looked at it, then at me, then at Nicole, who was still standing by the hostess station looking lost. I need to use the restroom, he said abruptly. Of course. I'll order appetizers for when your parents join us. Brandon practically ran toward the back of the restaurant, and I watched Nicole follow him a moment later. They were probably meeting in the hallway by the restrooms, trying to figure out what had gone wrong with their carefully planned evening. But what they didn't know was that the evening was just getting started. I watched Brandon and Nicole disappear down the hallway toward the restrooms, no doubt trying to figure out how to salvage their romantic evening. But they were too late. The trap had already been set, and now it was just a matter of time before it snapped shut. While they were gone, the hostess approached Dr. and Mrs. Peterson's table with a confused expression. Excuse me, she said to Nicole's parents, but there seems to be some confusion. We have a reservation for Nicole Peterson at 7 p.m. for table 12, but also a reservation for a Nicole Peterson celebration dinner at 7:15. Are you part of the same party? Dr. Peterson looked puzzled. We're here for our daughter Nicole's promotion celebration. Someone from her office organized it. And where is your daughter? Mrs. Peterson looked around the restaurant. She should be here by now. This isn't like Nicole to be late. That's when Mrs. Peterson's eyes landed on the woman in the black dress standing near the restroom hallway, gesturing urgently to a man in a navy suit. Even from across the restaurant, even after all these years, a mother recognizes her own child. There she is. Mrs. Peterson said, pointing toward the hallway. Nicole? But something was wrong. Nicole was with a man, and it wasn't her husband Timothy. Mrs. Peterson squinted, trying to get a better look. Dr. Peterson followed his wife's gaze and frowned. Who is that man with her? Meanwhile, Robert and Diana Williams had been watching their son act strangely all evening. When Brandon excused himself to go to the restroom and didn't return after 10 minutes, Diana started to worry. Maybe we should go check on Brandon, Diana said to her husband. He's been gone an awfully long time. He probably ran into someone from work, Robert replied, but he was looking toward the back of the restaurant with concern. That's when Nicole and Brandon emerged from the hallway, walking closely together, their heads bent in urgent conversation. They moved toward table 12, the intimate corner booth where they'd been carrying on their affair for months. Nicole had her hand on Brandon's arm, and even from across the restaurant, their body language screamed intimacy. These weren't co-workers having a business discussion. These were lovers trying to figure out how to handle a crisis. Dr. Peterson stood up so fast he knocked over his water glass. Patricia, he said to his wife, his voice tight with disbelief, is that Nicole with another man? Mrs. Peterson was already on her feet, her face pale. That's not Timothy. Who is that man with our daughter? At the same time, Diana Williams gasped. Robert, why is Brandon sitting with that woman? Where's Simone? I'm right here, I said, appearing at their table with perfect timing. I was just visiting with some friends I saw across the restaurant. All three sets of parents turned to look at me, then back at the corner booth where Brandon and Nicole were now sitting across from each other, their hands intertwined on top of the table. Simone, Diana said slowly, who is that woman with Brandon? I believe that's Nicole Peterson. She works with Brandon. Peterson? Robert's face was turning red. As in Dr. and Mrs. Peterson over there? I nodded toward the Petersons' table, where both parents were staring at their daughter in horror. I think there might be some confusion, I said calmly. Maybe we should all sit down and figure this out together. But Dr. Peterson was already striding across the restaurant toward table 12, his wife close behind him. Robert and Diana Williams followed, with me bringing up the rear. Nicole saw her parents approaching first. The color drained from her face and she quickly pulled her hands away from Brandon's. But it was too late. They'd all seen the intimate way she'd been touching a married man. Nicole? Dr. Peterson's voice could have cut glass. What is going on here? Dad? Mom? What are you doing here? We're here for your promotion celebration, Mrs. Peterson said, her voice shaking. The one your coworker organized to surprise you. Nicole looked confused. What promotion? What coworker? That's when Brandon noticed his own parents standing behind the Petersons, their faces masks of shock and disappointment. Mom? Dad? I thought you were having dinner with Simone. We are having dinner with Simone, Diana said coldly. The question is, what are you doing here with this woman? The restaurant had gone quiet around us. Other diners were starting to stare, sensing the drama unfolding in the corner booth. Brandon stood up, his face flushed. I can explain. Explain what? Robert's voice was louder than it should have been in a restaurant. Explain why you're having dinner with another woman while your wife thinks you're at a business meeting? It's not what it looks like, Nicole said quickly, but her voice was weak, unconvincing. Really? Mrs. Peterson's voice was ice cold. Because it looks like my married daughter is on a date with someone else's husband. I stepped forward, pulling out my phone. Actually, it's exactly what it looks like. They've been meeting here every Thursday night for months. I showed them the photos I'd taken the week before, Brandon and Nicole feeding each other appetizers, holding hands across the table, kissing in the parking lot. Both sets of parents stared at the photos in stunned silence. 6 months, I continued, my voice calm and steady. They've been having an affair for 6 months. Every Thursday night, Brandon tells me he has client meetings. Every Thursday night, Nicole tells Timothy she's working late. But really, they come here to table 12 and pretend they're not destroying 2 marriages. Dr. Peterson looked at his daughter like he'd never seen her before. Nicole, is this true? Nicole's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't deny it. She couldn't. The evidence was right there in front of everyone. How could you? Mrs. Peterson whispered. How could you do this to Timothy? To your family? To yourself? Brandon tried to take control of the situation. Look, everyone, calm down. This is between Simone and me. No, Diana's voice was sharp as a blade. This involves all of us now. We raised you better than this, Brandon. We raised you to honor your commitments, to respect your wife, to be a man of integrity. And we raised Nicole to respect her marriage vows, Dr. Peterson added, his voice heavy with disappointment. To be honest and faithful. The entire restaurant was staring now, but I didn't care. This was better than I'd imagined. Both sets of parents, discovering their children's betrayal together, witnessing the destruction of 2 marriages in the most public way possible. I think, I said quietly, reaching into my purse, this is the perfect time to give you these. I pulled out an envelope and handed it to Brandon. Divorce papers. I've already filed them. You can sign them now or you can sign them later, but this marriage is over. Brandon stared at the envelope like it might explode. Simone, please, let's talk about this privately. The time for private conversations ended when you decided to have a public affair, I replied. There's nothing left to talk about. I turned to face both sets of parents. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but I thought you deserved to know the truth about your children. Then I turned and walked out of Romano's Italian bistro, leaving Brandon and Nicole to explain themselves to their devastated families. Behind me, I could hear voices rising in anger, hurt, and disbelief. But I didn't look back. I was done looking back. I sat in my car outside Romano's for 20 minutes, watching through the restaurant windows as the drama continued to unfold inside. From my vantage point, I could see animated gestures, people standing and sitting, and what looked like a lot of shouting. Finally, Dr. Peterson stormed out of the restaurant, his wife practically running to keep up with him. They didn't say a word to each other as they got into their Mercedes and drove away, tires squealing against the pavement. 5 minutes later, Robert and Diana Williams emerged, both looking older than when they'd walked in. Diana was crying and Robert had his arm around her shoulders. They walked slowly to their car, the weight of their son's betrayal visible in every step. Brandon and Nicole were the last to leave, separately. Nicole came out first, her mascara streaked down her cheeks, looking around frantically before getting into her red BMW. She sat there for several minutes, probably trying to figure out how she was going to go home and face Timothy. Brandon appeared 10 minutes later, walking like a man in a daze. He looked around the parking lot until he spotted my car, then walked over and tapped on the window. I rolled it down halfway. Simone, please. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I saw everything I needed to see. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been having an affair with Nicole for months. You love her. You talk about leaving me. You mock me in your text messages. I kept my voice level, emotionless. Did you think I didn't know? Brandon's face went white. You read my texts? I read everything. Every message, every plan, every lie you told me while you were with her. He leaned against my car, looking defeated. How long have you known? Long enough to plan tonight perfectly. You planned this? You invited our parents on purpose. I started my car engine. Sign the divorce papers, Brandon. Make this easy on yourself. What about 8 years of marriage? Doesn't that mean anything to you? It meant everything to me. Apparently it meant nothing to you. I drove away, leaving Brandon standing alone in the parking lot of the restaurant where his affair had just been exposed to the people who mattered most to him. When I got home, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my couch, finally allowing myself to process what had just happened. My phone started ringing almost immediately. The first call was from Tanya, my sister. Girl, what happened? Diana Williams just called Mom crying about Brandon having an affair. Please tell me you didn't know about this beforehand. I knew. Simone. Why didn't you tell me? Because I needed to handle it my way. By ambushing him in public? That's not like you. The Simone who would have handled this privately and given him a chance to lie his way out of it doesn't exist anymore. This new Simone makes sure cheating husbands get exactly what they deserve. Tanya was quiet for a moment. Are you okay? I'm better than okay. I'm free. The second call was from my mother-in-law. Simone, honey, I am so sorry. I can't believe Brandon would do this to you, to our family. I'm sorry you had to find out that way, Diana. Don't you dare apologize. You have nothing to be sorry for. Robert and I are ashamed of our son. We raised him better than this. I know you did. What can we do? How can we help you through this? Just be there for me like you always have been. I'm going to need family more than ever, and you and Robert are my family regardless of what Brandon has done. Diana started crying again. We love you, Simone. You'll always be our daughter-in-law, no matter what happens with the divorce. The third call was from Brandon's younger brother, Jake. Simone, Dad just told me what happened. I can't believe Brandon would do something so stupid. Are you okay? I'm fine, Jake. No, you're not. Nobody's fine after something like this. Do you need anything? A place to stay? Someone to beat up Brandon? That made me smile for the first time all day. I don't need Brandon beaten up, but thank you for offering. I might need help moving my stuff out of the house this weekend. Consider it done. I'll bring a truck and some guys from work. Thank you. That means a lot. The fourth call was from Timothy Peterson. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Mrs. Williams? This is Timothy Peterson, Nicole's husband. I think we need to talk. I'm sorry, Timothy. I'm sure this is difficult for you. Nicole came home tonight and told me everything. About the affair, about what happened at the restaurant. I wanted to thank you. That surprised me. Thank me? For exposing the truth. I've suspected something was wrong for months, but I couldn't prove it. Nicole kept telling me I was paranoid, that I was imagining things. At least now I know I wasn't crazy. I'm sorry it had to happen this way. No, you did the right thing. If you hadn't forced the truth into the open, Nicole would have kept lying to both of us indefinitely. We talked for a few more minutes about lawyers and divorce proceedings. Timothy was hurt but handling it better than I'd expected. He seemed almost relieved to finally know the truth. The last call of the evening was the one I'd been dreading. Brandon. Simone, I'm outside. Please let me come in so we can talk. There's nothing to talk about. There's everything to talk about. 8 years of marriage doesn't just end because of one mistake. One mistake. Brandon, you've been having an affair for 6 months. You're in love with another woman. You mock me to her. You lie to me every single day. That's not one mistake, that's a choice you made over and over again. I was going to end it with Nicole. When? Before or after you left me for her? Silence. That's what I thought. Sign the divorce papers, Brandon. I'll have Jake come get my stuff this weekend. After that, we don't need to see each other again. What about counseling? What about trying to work it out? You should have thought about counseling before you decided to have an affair. It's too late now. I hung up and turned off my phone. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, but also strangely peaceful. 4 months, I'd been living with the knowledge of Brandon's betrayal, carrying that secret weight alone. Now the truth was out in the open, and everyone could see Brandon and Nicole for who they really were. As I got ready for bed in the house I would soon be leaving forever, I thought about the expression on Nicole's face when her parents confronted her. The shame, the regret, the realization that she destroyed her marriage and her family's respect for momentary pleasure. Brandon would wake up tomorrow with no wife, disappointed parents, and a reputation in ruins. Nicole would face the same consequences, plus a divorce from a man who'd loved her faithfully for 6 years. They'd gotten exactly what they deserved. And for the first time in months, I slept peacefully through the entire night. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Word travels fast in small communities, and by Friday morning, everyone seemed to know about the Romanos incident. Most of the messages were supportive. Friends expressing shock at Brandon's behavior, offering help with the divorce, inviting me to lunch so I could talk. But there were a few messages that made my blood boil. Brandon's cousin Michelle had texted, "Maybe if you'd been a better wife, Brandon wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere." His college friend Derek wrote, "Everyone makes mistakes. You should consider forgiveness." And Brandon's ex-girlfriend from high school, Lisa, had the audacity to message, "Brandon's a good man. This doesn't sound like him at all." I deleted those messages without responding. I didn't owe anyone explanations or justifications for ending my marriage to a cheater. The message I did respond to was from my divorce attorney, Janet Morrison. I'd hired her 2 weeks ago, right after I'd started planning my revenge. "Simone, I heard about what happened last night. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Is everything ready on the legal side?" "Absolutely. The divorce papers are filed, and based on the evidence of adultery you provided, this should be straightforward." "Has Brandon indicated whether he'll contest the divorce?" "He says he wants to work things out, but I think reality is starting to set in." "Good. I'll be in touch if I need anything else from you." I spent Friday morning calling my job to request a leave of absence. My boss, Carol, was understanding and supportive. "Take all the time you need, Simone. Your job will be here when you're ready to come back." Next, I called Jake to confirm he was still available to help me move over the weekend. "Of course. I've got 3 guys in a truck. What time do you want us there?" "Early. I want to be done before Brandon gets home from work." "Where are you going to stay?" "I found a furnished apartment near downtown. Month-to-month lease until I figure out something permanent." "Good for you. You're handling this better than I would." That afternoon, Tanya came over with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. "Okay," she said, settling onto my couch. "Tell me everything. From the beginning." I told her the whole story, from discovering the text to watching the confrontation at Romano's. Tanya listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from shock to anger to something that looked like pride. "Damn, Simone. That was cold-blooded. It was necessary. I'm not criticizing you. Brandon deserved everything he got. I'm just impressed by how methodical you were about it. I had 2 weeks to plan. I wanted to make sure it was perfect." "And Nicole's parents? They had no idea?" "None. According to Timothy, they've been calling Nicole all day, trying to understand how their daughter became the kind of woman who destroys marriages." Tanya shook her head. "What about Brandon's parents?" "Diana called this morning. She's still upset, but she made it clear they support me, not Brandon. They're embarrassed and disappointed in him. As they should be." We spent the evening going through the house, deciding what I wanted to take and what I was leaving behind. Most of the furniture could stay. I didn't want reminders of my marriage in my new place. But there were personal items, books, photos from before Brandon and I met, things that were mine alone. Around 10 p.m. Brandon's car pulled into the driveway. "I should go," Tanya said, gathering up the empty takeout containers. "You don't have to leave because of him." "I know, but this is your house for one more night. Handle your business." After Tanya left, Brandon came inside looking like he hadn't slept at all. His hair was messy, his clothes wrinkled, and he had dark circles under his eyes. "We need to talk," he said. "We really don't." "Simone, please. I know you're angry, but—" "Angry?" I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to me. "Brandon, I'm past angry. I'm done. What can I do to fix this?" "There's nothing to fix. You made your choice when you decided to have an affair. I'm making mine by choosing to leave." Brandon sat down heavily on the couch. "I never meant for this to happen. You never meant to get caught." "No, I never meant to hurt you. The thing with Nicole, it just happened." "For 6 months?" "It just kept happening every Thursday night for 6 months." Brandon was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he looked up at me with something like defeat in his eyes. "I love her." The words hit me like a slap, even though I'd read them in his text messages weeks ago. Hearing him say it out loud was different. I know, I said simply. But I love you too. No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the security of our marriage, the convenience of having someone take care of you while you pursue your real relationship with Nicole. But you don't love me, Brandon. If you loved me, you wouldn't have been able to do this. That's not true. Prove it. Tell me right now that you'll never see Nicole again. Tell me you'll quit your job and find work somewhere else so you never have to be around her. Tell me you'll block her number and delete her from your life completely. Brandon opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked down at his hands. That's what I thought, I said. You can't even pretend to choose me over her. It's complicated. No, it's not. It's actually very simple. You want to be with Nicole more than you want to be married to me. So go be with Nicole. But you don't get to keep me as a backup plan. I went upstairs to pack the last of my personal items, leaving Brandon sitting alone on the couch. When I came back down with my suitcase, he was gone. His car was still in the driveway, but he was nowhere in the house. I found him on the back porch, staring out at the garden we'd planted together 3 years ago. I'm staying at the Hampton Inn tonight, I said. Jake will be here tomorrow afternoon to get my stuff. Brandon nodded without looking at me. I changed the locks on the house, I continued. Your key won't work anymore. Consider this fair warning. This is my house too. Actually, it's not. It's my house. I inherited it from my grandmother, remember? You're the one who moved in here after we got married. Brandon's shoulders slumped. I forgot. You forgot a lot of things. Like your wedding vows. I walked back through the house one last time, making sure I had everything I needed. As I reached for my car keys, Brandon appeared in the doorway. Simone, wait. I turned around. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. Sorry you had an affair, or sorry you got caught? He thought about it for a moment, which told me everything I needed to know. Goodbye, Brandon. As I drove away from the house where I'd lived for 8 years, I felt something unexpected. Relief. The hard part was over. The confrontation, the revelation, the end of my marriage, all of that was behind me now. What lay ahead was the unknown, but for the first time in months, the unknown felt like possibility instead of dread. 6 months after the Romanos incident, as it had become known in our social circle, I was sitting in my new apartment sipping coffee and reading the Sunday paper when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Timothy Peterson's name. Hi, Timothy. How are you doing? Better than expected, actually. I wanted to call and thank you again. For what? For setting me free. I know that wasn't your intention when you exposed Nicole's affair, but that's what you did. You freed both of us from marriages that weren't working. Timothy and I had become unlikely friends over the past months. We'd gone through our divorces at the same time, sometimes sharing lawyers' recommendations and moral support. It was strange having something in common with Nicole's ex-husband, but trauma bonded people in unexpected ways. How did the final hearing go? I asked. It's officially over. Nicole didn't contest anything. She just wanted it finished quickly. And how is she doing? I honestly don't know. We haven't spoken since the papers were signed. But I heard through mutual friends that she's been struggling. Lost her job at Henderson Marketing after the affair came out. Apparently the company has a strict policy about workplace relationships. She's working at some small firm downtown now. I felt a brief flicker of sympathy for Nicole, then remembered the pain she'd caused and pushed the feeling aside. Actions had consequences. What about Brandon? Timothy asked. Also struggling. He's still at his company, but his reputation is damaged. Hard to be trusted with client relationships when everyone knows you can't be trusted in your personal relationships. He moved in with his brother Jake after I kicked him out of the house. Are they still together? Nicole and Brandon? As far as I know. Though apparently it's not the fairy tale romance they thought it would be once they were both divorced. That was an understatement. According to mutual friends, Brandon and Nicole's relationship had soured quickly once it was no longer forbidden. The excitement of sneaking around was gone, replaced by the reality of two people who had destroyed their lives for what turned out to be an unsustainable infatuation. Anyway, Timothy continued, I called because I wanted to update you on my news. I'm engaged. Timothy, that's wonderful. Tell me about her. Her name is Rebecca. She's a nurse at the hospital where I work IT. We met in the cafeteria 4 months ago when I was going through the worst of the divorce depression. She helped me remember that not all women are liars and cheaters. I smiled, genuinely happy for him. Timothy was a good man who deserved someone who would appreciate his loyalty and kindness. When's the wedding? Next spring. Small ceremony, just close family and friends. I've learned that big romantic gestures and fancy venues don't guarantee a marriage will work. After we hung up, I reflected on how much my life had changed in 6 months. I'd bought Brandon out of his half of my grandmother's house, gotten a promotion at work, and started taking art classes on weekends. I was dating occasionally, nothing serious yet, but I was open to possibilities. The divorce had been finalized 3 months ago. Brandon had signed all the papers without contest, probably because he knew public opinion was entirely on my side. His infidelity was documented and witnessed, making any attempt to fight the divorce pointless. I'd kept my maiden name throughout our marriage, so there were no legal complications about changing it back. I was simply Simone Johnson again, the same person I'd been before I met Brandon Williams. That Tuesday evening, I was at my favorite coffee shop near the university, grading papers for the art appreciation class I'd started teaching part-time, when someone approached my table. "Excuse me, are you using this chair?" I looked up to see a tall, dark-skinned man with kind eyes and an easy smile. He was wearing a brown sweater that brought out the gold flecks in his brown eyes. "No, please take it," I said, moving my papers aside. "Thank you. I'm Gabriel, by the way. Gabriel Chen." "Simone. Nice to meet you." Gabriel settled at the next table with a laptop and what looked like architectural drawings. Over the next hour, we fell into easy conversation about art, work, and the coffee shop's excellent pastries. "I'm an architect," Gabriel explained when I asked about his drawings. "Working on a proposal for a new community center downtown." "That sounds interesting. What got you into architecture?" "I've always been fascinated by how spaces affect people's emotions and behavior. A well-designed building can make people feel welcome, inspired, peaceful. Bad design can make them feel anxious or excluded." I found myself genuinely interested in what he was saying, not just being polite. It had been a long time since a man had engaged my mind as well as my attention. "What about you? Are you a teacher?" "Part-time. I work in marketing during the day, but I teach art appreciation classes in the evenings. It's my passion project." "Art appreciation. That's fascinating. I've always wished I understood art better." "It's not about understanding," I said, warming to the subject. "It's about feeling. Art is meant to evoke emotion, to make you think or react. If it does that, then it's working whether you understand it or not." Gabriel smiled. "See, that's exactly what I mean. You just taught me something important in 30 seconds. We talked until the coffee shop closed at 10 p.m., covering everything from our favorite artists to our worst dating disasters. Gabriel had been divorced for 2 years after his ex-wife decided she preferred her yoga instructor to her husband. "I'm sorry," I said when he mentioned his divorce. "That must have been painful." "It was, but honestly, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. We weren't right for each other, but neither of us was brave enough to admit it. Sometimes it takes a crisis to force you to make necessary changes." I knew exactly what he meant. As we gathered our things to leave, Gabriel hesitated. "This might be presumptuous, but would you like to have dinner sometime? Somewhere nicer than a coffee shop?" I studied his face, looking for signs of insincerity or ulterior motives. But all I saw was genuine interest and the kind of nervous hope that came from putting yourself out there after being hurt. "I'd like that," I said. "Really? Really?" Gabriel's smile was brilliant. "How about Friday night? I know a great little Italian place downtown." "Not Romano's, I hope?" Gabriel laughed. "Definitely not Romano's. I was thinking more like Antonio's on 5th Street. Much better food, much less drama." As I drove home that night, I realized I was genuinely excited about a date for the first time in years. Not nervous, not anxious about making a good impression, just excited to spend time with someone who seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. Friday couldn't come fast enough. 1 year later, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror putting the finishing touches on my makeup for Gabriel's company holiday party. The woman staring back at me looked happier and more confident than I had in years. My skin glowed, my eyes sparkled with genuine joy, and I carried myself with the assurance of someone who knew her own worth. The past year had been transformative in ways I never could have imagined. Gabriel and I had taken our relationship slowly, building a foundation of friendship and trust before allowing romance to bloom. He was everything Brandon wasn't: honest, attentive, emotionally available, and completely devoted to building a life with me rather than escaping from it. "You look stunning," Gabriel said, appearing in the doorway of my bedroom. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit that complemented his warm brown skin perfectly, and his smile when he looked at me made my heart skip. "Thank you. You don't look too bad yourself." Gabriel crossed the room and wrapped his arms around me from behind, meeting my eyes in the mirror. "I have something for you." "Gabriel, we agreed no gifts until Christmas." "This isn't a Christmas gift. I can't wait another day gift. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and my heart stopped. Simone Johnson, he said, turning me to face him and dropping to one knee, you are the most beautiful, intelligent, strong woman I've ever known. You've taught me what real love looks like, not the desperate, secretive kind that thrives on drama and deception, but the steady, honest, supportive kind that makes both people better. Tears spilled down my cheeks as he opened the box to reveal a classic solitaire diamond ring that caught the light and threw sparkles across the wall. Will you marry me? Yes, I whispered, then louder, yes, yes, of course yes. Gabriel slipped the ring onto my finger and it fit perfectly. He stood and kissed me with so much love and passion that I forgot about the party, forgot about everything except this man who had helped me remember what it felt like to be truly cherished. I love you, I said against his lips. I love you too. More than I ever thought possible. We might have stayed there kissing forever, but Gabriel's phone buzzed with a text from his business partner wondering where we were. We should go, Gabriel said reluctantly. Everyone's waiting to meet you. As we drove to the party, I thought about how different my life was now compared to a year ago. The Romanos incident had been the end of one chapter but the beginning of something infinitely better. Brandon and Nicole had lasted another 3 months after their divorces were final before breaking up spectacularly. According to the local gossip network, their relationship couldn't survive the guilt, shame, and judgment from their families and community. Brandon was now dating someone new, a woman from his gym who apparently didn't care about his history of infidelity. Nicole had moved to another state to start fresh where no one knew her story. I felt no satisfaction in their misery, but I felt no pity either. They had made their choices and earned their consequences. Timothy had married Rebecca in a beautiful spring ceremony that I'd attended as his friend. They were blissfully happy, and seeing Timothy with someone who appreciated him had reinforced my belief that everyone deserved to be with someone who chose them wholeheartedly. Penny for your thoughts, Gabriel said as we pulled into the restaurant parking lot. Just thinking about how much my life has changed. Good changes? The best changes. A year ago, I was married to a man who didn't value me, working a job that didn't fulfill me, and living a life that felt small and constrained. Now I have a career I'm passionate about, a man who loves me completely, and a future full of possibilities. Gabriel took my hand, his thumb stroking over my new engagement ring. I can't wait to start our life together officially. No secrets, no lies, no drama. Just us building something real and lasting. The party was everything I'd hoped it would be. Gabriel's colleagues welcomed me warmly, and I could see how respected and liked he was in his professional community. When he introduced me as his fiancée, his pride was obvious and genuine. So you're the woman who finally tamed Gabriel Chen, his business partner Marcus teased. He's been a different person since he met you. Happier, more focused, definitely more motivated to leave the office at reasonable hours. I didn't tame him, I laughed. I just gave him a reason to want to go home. Later in the evening, Gabriel and I were swaying together on the dance floor when I saw a familiar figure across the restaurant. Brandon was there with his new girlfriend, a blonde woman who looked young enough to be carded. He spotted me at the same time and our eyes met across the crowded room. For a moment I felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, no regret. Just nothing. He was a stranger who used to be married to me, a character from a previous life that no longer had any relevance to who I was now. Brandon raised his wine glass slightly in what might have been a toast or an acknowledgement. I nodded politely back, then turned my attention to Gabriel, who was whispering something sweet in my ear. Everything okay? Gabriel asked, noticing my momentary distraction. Perfect, I said and meant it. Everything is absolutely perfect. As the evening wound down, Gabriel and I walked hand in hand to our car under a clear, star-filled sky. So, Gabriel said, when do you want to get married? Tomorrow? I joked, then considered it seriously. Actually, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. I don't need a big wedding or a long engagement. I just need you. Spring? Gabriel suggested. We could have the ceremony in your grandmother's garden. Small, intimate, just the people who matter most to us. That sounds perfect. As Gabriel drove us home to the house we now shared, my grandmother's house, which had witnessed the end of my marriage to Brandon and was now the foundation for my future with Gabriel, I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this moment. A year ago, I had been betrayed, humiliated, and broken. I had discovered my husband's affair in the most painful way possible and had responded with calculated revenge that destroyed multiple relationships and reputations. Some people might say I had been too harsh, too unforgiving. But I regretted nothing. Brandon and Nicole had made their choices, and I had simply ensured those choices had appropriate consequences. More importantly, those consequences had freed me to discover what real love looked like. Gabriel didn't just say he loved me, he showed it every day through his actions, his attention, his commitment to our relationship. He didn't take me for granted or treat our love as something he could risk for momentary excitement. "What are you thinking about now?" Gabriel asked as we pulled into our driveway. "Just gratitude, I guess. For everything that happened, even the painful parts. If Brandon hadn't had his affair, I never would have left him. And if I hadn't left him, I never would have met you." Gabriel turned off the engine and took my hands in his. "I hate that you had to go through that pain, but I'm grateful for whatever forces in the universe brought us together. Even if those forces included public humiliation at Romano's Italian bistro?" Gabriel laughed. "Especially because of that. Your revenge story is legendary, by the way. Half the city knows better than to cheat on their spouses because they're afraid their partners might pull a Simone Johnson on them. Is that what they're calling it? Among other things. You've become something of a folk hero for betrayed wives everywhere." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, looking at our house. Gabriel had officially moved in 3 months ago with its warm lights glowing in the windows. "Are you ready to go inside and start planning our wedding?" Gabriel asked. "I'm ready to start planning our life," I replied. As we walked up the front steps together, Gabriel carrying me over the threshold like we were already married, I thought about the title of this chapter of my life. If the Romanos incident had been the revenge, and the months that followed had been the recovery, then this was the renewal. I was no longer the woman who had discovered her husband's betrayal through late-night text messages. I wasn't even the woman who had orchestrated public humiliation as payback for private pain. I was Simone Johnson, successful marketing executive and part-time art teacher, engaged to a wonderful man who loved me completely and honestly. I was a woman who had learned her own worth, demanded to be treated accordingly, and refused to settle for anything less than she deserved. And as Gabriel carried me across the threshold of the house where my old life had ended and my new life had begun, I knew with absolute certainty that the best was yet to come. Our love story wasn't built on drama or deception or the thrill of the forbidden. It was built on friendship, respect, shared values, and the simple daily choice to put each other first. It wasn't exciting in the way that affairs were exciting, it was better than that. It was real. 6 months later, on a perfect May morning in my grandmother's garden, surrounded by the people who loved us most, Gabriel and I promised to love, honor, and cherish each other for the rest of our lives. And unlike the promises I'd made 8 years earlier to a man who would break them without remorse, I knew these vows would last forever. Because real love doesn't need the drama of betrayal to stay interesting. Real love is interesting enough all on its own.